out there. Can you hear us? Today is 20th of March on WhatsApp Radio. We are going to have a special edition. I'm here with my fellow host, Justina Kufu, who will give us the beginning of the show. So, Justina, give it away.
A very warm welcome to all our viewers and listeners tonight. Just to say, it's not too late to invite someone to join us to hear a very wonderful testimony. Joining us today is a very special couple. They're Christians, Mr. and Mrs. Julian Sotomi. Julian is married to Priscilla, and they have two amazing boys. They work and live in the United States. Julian is an entrepreneur and a senior consultant with IBM since 2006. Julian began his formative years in Kumasi, attending Achimota Secondary School in Accra, before he went to the US to further his education. Julian is a keen golfer. He also loves giving back by supporting those in need and to the less fortunate in society. Priscilla, his wife, and the mother of their two boys, is a system engineer. It is our pleasure to welcome you both to the program tonight. And we are so grateful to you for honoring our invitation. I have known Julian since childhood. We were family friends. We lived and grew up in the same neighborhood in Kumasi. Julian and my brother were good friends. Our mothers too were good friends. They were actually born in the same year. They went to the same secondary school, and they were in the same class. So we go a long way back. In August 2021, this family went through a trial. This trial gave rise to a testimony of God's love, God's grace, and his ability to heal. And they are here to share it all with us. The Lord continues to open doors for them, giving them the opportunity to share their testimony. One thing that Julian said that touched me so much, he said he never gets tired of sharing his testimony. He also said to me, even if I have to share it with just one person, I'm willing to share it. God bless you for that, Julian. You and your wife have a testimony that the whole world needs to hear. We just pray that the Lord will continue to strengthen both of you as you continue to spread this message all over the world. So once again, thank you both for joining us. We are in England. We come to you from England, from London. So there are many aspects of this testimony, having heard it personally from him. And we just hope that as they take us through the journey, we will catch all aspects of this testimony. There are questions that people have, such as, is there life after death? What is God like? As we listen to their story, I'm sure it will, they would help us to understand and answer some questions they may have. So listeners and viewers, feel free to put your comments. If you're watching us via YouTube Live or you're watching us via Facebook Live, you can put your questions and comments there, and we hope to address them as we go through the program. So without further ado, Mr. and Mrs. Sotomi, I'm going to ask you to greet our listeners and viewers, and then I'm going to ask Priscilla to start us off as to what happened on that fateful day in August last year. So over to you, Mr. and Mrs.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Hello? Hello?
Let's call phone. Let's call. Are you going to call them? Yeah, I'm calling from Let's call.
Yes, I want your bonnet, I send any back on the home. Yes, I want a bonnet, I send any baboon movie. Now, me many brass and I had them cry. Ah, the beach, I hope I say, man, I had them. I'm able to me as his son.
And your favorite yellow. With a family, and your favorite yellow. But now me want to meet her. The brother to me as a son.
Kaka ina da man kata ria. Something up pania. Edi you. Something up pania. Edi beni. Something up pania. Edi ye. Something up pania. Edi ye. Stop.
Erate. Oye mi afri esumo ti mi aba wo han mu. Mi a nanka mi sebi. Kanipa na me nka ho. Se na erade wanchi me. How ni ababere se nyina echi na tatamata mabotue mu. Masam nyina na sabi da was. Shira akanya me say wa mama mo mi bone mo sachra mata bontia pau mo jaje mi mo frusane and that's everything me kwa na me mi barate enya ma mo dino anasemi nya sabio enya mi to me Truby what's it? Then mama ya ready what do more. Shira eka witida. Shira kanya misa.
Nothing has been recorded. Record your message after the tone. Simply hang up when done.
or for delivery options, press the pound sign. Please leave your message for
Julian Sutton.
Nothing has been recorded. Please leave your message for
Julian Sutton.
Hello. Sorry, we are having a little bit of technical issues, but this show must go on. The testimony must be said. The enemy is a liar. And tonight we are going to see how real God is. So tonight in the studio, I've got Justina with me, and we've got Gillian and the wife, beautiful wife Priscilla in the US. And we are trying to connect. Our audio is not working. We've tried the phone. We are trying Skype now, and hopefully Skype will work. So do not touch the dial. Hold in there. We've got Gillian and Priscilla to share their true testimony which is mind-blowing. And please call a friend and tune in. We serve a living God. Sometimes we feel like we are not serving a God who is so powerful and mighty. But listen to this, and this will blow your mind and really increase your faith in God. That's what we are here tonight, to increase your faith, to know that the God we serve is mighty and powerful. So tune in on WhatsApp Radio and one show off on Party Development Hour to develop yourself, to develop your faith, to increase your faith, to really know the God we serve is real. So Justina, hold on. And so we are so sorry, Gillian and Priscilla, and hopefully you can hear us tonight. Can you hear us? Yes. Okay, great. You guys are on mute, so if you can unmute, and then we will start.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay.
Hello?
You've unmuted?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Nasapon, can you hear them?
We can hear you.
We will get there. We will get there. Still having a few technical issues. We can see them live and clear.
Mic is muted.
Hello?
Can you hear us now?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear
They can hear us, but we cannot hear them.
Yes.
Your recording has reached the maximum length. To replay your message, press 1. To delete and re-record your message, press 3.
Who did you call before where they could hear us? So can you try and call and see if maybe you can. Oh, okay. You can do it. Okay. All right. Okay. You can hear us? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you on the cell phone.
There's an echo.
Can we just give ourselves 10 minutes break after we do it? Okay, 10 minutes break. Let's say we give a 10 minutes break so that you calm down. I don't know I'm going to.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
What did it go? It's your papa. What the papa now we are missing.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect, Gillian. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. We would just like to apologize to the audience and Facebook Live on YouTube. Sorry, there was just a mess of technical issues, but I think we are going to get the ball rolling now. So, Nasapon, over to you. Start.
Listeners and viewers, thank you so much for your patience. We have experienced some issues, but I think we're over the issues now and we're ready to go. So just stay with us. Mr. and Mrs. Sotomi, again, we welcome you. Please say hello to all our listeners and viewers out there. And then your beautiful wife will set us off this evening with us to what happened last August. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting us to talk about our testimony. Really appreciate this opportunity. And hello to all the viewers. And I'm going to pass it on to my wife Priscilla. We normally like to start the testimony 2 weeks prior to the actual experience in August 17th. Because you could tell that God started this whole thing. God orchestrated it 2 weeks prior to. So I'm going to pass it on to Priscilla, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us on your show. As you said previously, any opportunity that we get to share our testimony, we are grateful and we see it as a blessing. God has done a lot for us. As Julian alluded to or started out, this whole experience from August 17th started about 2 weeks prior. And that part is important, as he already stated, to show everybody how God's hand was in everything along the way. So 2 weeks prior to that, Julian and I had a very terrible argument. And as we know, all partners, fight, we live together, we get on each other's nerves, and, and things can easily escalate. For Julian and I, there were things that were already happening. But 2 weeks prior to that, we had a argument where it seemed as if things were definitely going downhill. It was something that I thought was a turning point in our relationship. So as a result of 2 weeks prior to August the 17th, we had began a situation or an atmosphere, if you will, of not speaking to each other in the house. So in the house, we literally did not speak a word to each other. If there was anything that we needed to communicate, we would actually use WhatsApp. So there'd be times where, you know, as you've already heard, we have two amazing boys. And if we needed to, you know, talk about them or anything like that, it'd be a WhatsApp about Matthew or Andrew. There are times where I would actually WhatsApp and ask them, what do you want for dinner? So I was still making dinner, but I would ask him, you know, or I would tell him, this is what we're having for dinner. So no communication whatsoever. So this had been going on for about 2 weeks, and you know, neither side was giving in. I wasn't speaking, and nor was he. So we were both giving as good as we got. So nobody was willing to let anything go. So as we said, dragging on for 2 weeks, and the night, or I should say the early morning of August 17th, about 5 a.m., very early in the morning, I heard Julian go downstairs for some water. And, you know, when I tell the story, and I still tell the story from last August, it seems so insignificant because what's the big deal about getting water? But for some reason, I was in tune that morning, and I was trying really hard to fall asleep. I didn't really honestly want to notice anything about him or have to speak to him. So I was willing myself to go back to sleep. Then I heard him get ice from the ice maker on the refrigerator. And that was significant because we do have an alkaline machine in the house. And for Julian to put, ice cubes from the refrigerator into his water is unheard of because he's pretty obsessed with alkaline water for health purposes and, you know, and all of the things that they advertise for. So I'm laying upstairs and I'm hearing all of this and I'm trying to ignore it. And I have no idea while I'm even, you know, in tune to that. And I was actually getting annoyed with myself because I really wanted just to sleep and ignore everything. So after a little bit of time, again, I hear him come upstairs and I'm facing the wall and I've got my eyes closed, but everything that he's doing, for some reason, I can feel it. So in my mind's eye, I can see it and I'm in tune to it. So I noticed that, or, you know, again, eyes closed and trying to force myself to sleep. He lays down on the bed. I could feel him lay down. Right. And within maybe a minute, he gets back up. And when he gets back up, he sits in a futon chair that we have in the bedroom. And I'm laying there and, you know, I hear a voice that says, Nanaja Jayadarian, right? And I lost my mom in 1997 to breast cancer. And throughout the years, I'm not going to be one of those to say, oh, I hear my mom's voice all the time or anything. I had never heard her voice like that. I've had dreams about my mom and things of that nature, but I had never heard her voice in all this time. And then she spoke Fancy. I'm Fancy. Right. And the way the voice was, it was like my mom was reprimanding me. It wasn't a gentle, soft-spoken voice. It was a stop, like basically stop what you're doing.
So that definitely got your attention.
Then I heard, yes.
So that got your attention, Priscilla? Did that get your attention? Because that.
Oh,
yes. Yes. And, yes, with everything that was going on, you just, yes. So it was like a supernatural encounter, something to get your attention.
Yes.
Right.
And and to be honest, it didn't. It was, like I said, it wasn't a gentle, I'm thinking this is mom's voice, but it was mom's voice saying, stop what you're doing. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't a, oh, come, like come hug mommy moment. It was a stop what you're doing. And, back in the day when my mom reprimanded me, it was that stern voice and you're in trouble and you're being foolish kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So, and when I heard it in Infanti, it was more of a, like it shook me. It shook me.
Right.
So at that point, then it changed over to English and it said something is wrong. And at that point, when I heard something is wrong, it wasn't a voice. It was like a foreboding, like something's wrong. It wasn't a voice at that time. It wasn't my mom's voice at that moment. It was something's wrong. So in that moment, I felt annoyance and I felt angry because now I have to speak to this man who we haven't been talking for 2 weeks, and like I said, he was giving as good as he got. So it was like, man, I've got to break the silence. So in annoyance, I look over at him and I said, what's wrong with you? And when I said it, again, it wasn't with love. It wasn't with I wouldn't even say, I don't want to say it wasn't with concern. It was more, but just in that moment, annoyance that I had to break the silence. So then he responds back to me, and just as annoyed, he says to me, nothing's wrong, like nothing's wrong. And he said, I'm just feeling some heartburn or some heart pain. Actually, heartburn is what he said. Yeah. So when he said that, Julian had a heart attack 10 years ago prior to this. And at that time, when he had it, he had said he was having heartburn, but we thought it was heartburn at that time. So it lasted for almost a full day. And that was 10 years ago. So when he said that to me in the morning, I immediately jumped up and I said to him, oh, we're not going through this again. Because in my head, I just remember 10 years ago, right now, we're barely speaking, and now what this is going to be, a repetition. So in that moment, I said to him, we're not going through this again. I'm dialing 911. So I pick up the house phone and I'm dialing 911, and he's muttering, he's sitting there holding his chest, and he's, kind of muttering and talking about how I'm being dramatic and, oh, what is this? And, that kind of thing. So I pick up the cell phone and I dial his cardiologist as well as his best friend, Dr. Jansen, Aim Jansen.
Right.
So I call Aim and I say, or Dr. Jansen, I said, speak to your boy. He says he's having heartburn. He's complaining of the chest pain, and he doesn't want me to call 911. And Aim's like, no, you have to call 911. So I had two phones in my hand. I already had 911 on, and then I handed the phone over to Julian. And basically I said to Aim, talk to your boy, because the way he's acting, it was almost like it's annoying, because here I am trying to call 911, and then you're talking about how dramatic I am. We're both angry with each other still in the midst of all of this. So I give the phone to him. And as all of this was happening on 911, they were asking me, if he's sitting upright, what is his history, and questions of that nature, and they're on their way. So while this is happening, our oldest son, Matthew, hears, everything that's going on. It's about 5 in the morning, maybe about 5:30 at this point. And he's like, Mommy, what's wrong? And I said, well, your dad is feeling some chest pain. So we've called 911, and he asked, well, what can I do to help? Mm-hmm. So I asked him to go get dad's insurance information and all of that stuff, and let's gather ourselves. So while we're doing all of this, Aim, who also happens to live down the street, again, God's showing his glory and his faithfulness, he comes down. He actually, he just slips on some, a jacket or something, and he comes down to make sure that basically everything's okay and that Julian does get into the ambulance, with everything going on. Now, mind you, when Aim comes, Julian is still not speaking to me. So when the ambulance comes, they're asking questions, and Julian is answering Aim. Aim is asking him, how are you feeling, and all of that. So I'm gathering stuff along with my son, and we're still not speaking, if you can believe it or not. So basically at this point, Julian is still feeling, or he's still kind of holding his chest, moving slowly, but he's upright. So he actually goes ahead and walks into the ambulance. So they didn't, onto the stretcher. So he actually walks, and then he actually sits on the stretcher. So it wasn't anything where he had passed out at home or anything like that. So he goes onto the stretcher. So then Aim talks to the EMTs and gives them, some of his history. They talk about EKGs and all of that kind of stuff. And I, again, with my older son, he's helping me get Dad's medication and gather things for the ambulance. So once that's finally all done, at this point, maybe it's about 5:45, maybe going on to 6 o'clock or so in the morning. So at this point, Aim says, okay, he's going to go home and do, get himself ready for the day, because at this point he had been woken up from sleep. He's going to get himself showered, dressed, and all of that, and he was going to stop at the hospital. I was told to follow the ambulance and, basically come and sit in the emergency waiting area so that they could just check over Julian and see what was happening. So basically left the boys at that time. They were 12 and 13. And our younger son later on, said that he woke up to see, basically woke up and mom and dad were gone, and older brother emotional, saying that dad's been taken away in an ambulance with, some heart problems. So at that point, they told me that they just held hands together and started praying that, God would make everything okay, that this wasn't going to be anything,
Right.
to be worried about. And what the boys know is God. And once God is in the mix, you have nothing to worry about.
Absolutely.
So at this point, I follow behind the ambulance, and they take Julian to our area hospital, Howard County General.
Sorry, Priscilla.
And,
sorry, Priscilla.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you there. So you drove behind the ambulance, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
And made sure the
that's
boys
correct.
were okay. Boys praying for dad. Boys praying
Yes.
for you. Left boys praying for daddy.
Yes, at
And
home by
yes,
themselves.
right. And then you followed the ambulance. And where
Yes.
was Dr. Johnson?
Dr. Jansen had returned home to his own house. He only lives about 10 minutes away from
Right.
us. So he had returned home so that he could shower and get dressed for the morning, basically for the day to begin, because at this point, nobody was panicked. We kind of knew that, okay, there's something different about what Julian is feeling, but because he was upright and able to, walk and sit on the stretcher, he hadn't passed out or anything. So we didn't know internally what was going on,
Right,
but we were
okay.
not, none of us was panicked at this point. So
Okay.
Dr. James went back to his house to shower, to dress, and, basically say once, and he has his own practice. So he basically was going to shower, dress, and then stop by the hospital and just kind of chat with the doctors as to, okay, what was it? And then start his day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Carry on. So
Okay.
you follow the ambulance and then you get to the hospital. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So we get to the hospital, and Julian, of course, is taken through the front and on the stretcher. And I have to come through almost like the visitors area where at this point I go to the admissions desk and I have to give, information about his insurance, our address, all the stuff that they can basically bill us with, So while I'm filling out the paperwork, I'm looking at the time. And so I asked one of the nurses or one of the people kind of standing in the area, I said, I'm here with Julian Sotami. And, we have 2 young kids at home, and, they're pretty frightened at this point. So how long do you think we're going to be? Because I basically was just thinking they're probably going to look him over. But at the same time, I was worried about, Matthew and Andrew being at home and wanted to reassure them, everything's okay. So they say to me, oh, yeah, he's being looked over by the cardiologist, and and maybe in about 20 minutes, it should be fine. So I'm thinking, oh, great. So I put the phone, so I basically say, okay, let me call Matthew and Andrew. So I went ahead and I called the boys and I said, oh, boys, you know what? It's fine. Mom and Dad will be home in about 20 minutes. They're looking Dad over, and they said, oh, in about 20 minutes we'll be fine. So then the next call I make was to Dr. Jamson. And I said, hey, Aim, it looks like, I just asked and somebody just told me that most likely it's only going to be about 20 minutes. So no big deal. You don't have to come. And Dr. Jamson said, well, you know what? He's going to go ahead and, he's already, getting showered and getting ready for the day. He's going to pass by the hospital because it's on his way. And he just wants to understand, what caused it, or, what brought this about. So I said, okay, no problem. So I'm in a good place now. I'm thinking, okay, boys are reassured. I've told Dr. Jamson, they said 20 more minutes. So I put the phone into my purse, and basically I'm ready to just kind of sit, chill, and wait. And not about maybe 15, 20 minutes later of sitting there, all of a sudden I look up and there is just a rush and a sea of, I always call it a sea of blue.
Right. Is it the doctors and nurses, or was it doctors coming out?
I don't, these are nurses, doctors, EMTs. It was like the whole staff. And again, this is very early in the morning, and this is during the time of COVID.
Right.
So I was the only person there. So I knew that this had to be something going on with Julian, because we were the only ones there. It's about 6-something in the morning at this point. So I just see just people rushing around all of a sudden, and then I see them pointing and then saying, that's her, that's her, that's her, that's Mrs. Sotami. So I'm looking and I'm confused and scared. And I remember 2 doctors walking towards me, and one came on each side of me, holding my elbow as if, they were holding me up. And they said, Mrs. Sotami, your husband just had a heart attack and he's flatlined.
Oh, dear.
So I look at them and I don't know what rushed through my head. I was confused. And so they're holding me up, and, and they're just, it was just a rush. So they're pushing me through the corridor. They're, like I said, they're holding me, one on each elbow. And I was confused. I don't remember what I was thinking.
Confused
I don't remember
and shocked as well. And shocked as well, because that was not what you were expecting.
At all. It was confusing. Like I said, they had just told me that in 20 minutes we'd be probably going home, because they were just checking him out.
Yeah.
And now I'm being told that he had a heart attack and he's flatlined. So
sorry, but Priscilla, flatlined is when there's no heartbeat and there's no pulse. Is that right?
Right. And for me, I'm not a doctor. Layman, when you say flatline, he's dead. I mean, again, I'm not a medical person. So when they told me as a person who has no medical background, he's gone.
Exactly.
And that's what they meant. So they were holding. I just remember feeling held up. I don't know if I was fainting. I just remember elbows being held by the elbows. So they take me through the corridor, and I just remember seeing that there was a stretcher and there were 3 people on each side of the stretcher.
Mm-hmm.
And the stretcher had sirens, a small siren on it. And I remember the colors, the green and the red, and it was just spinning around. And there were people rushing, 3 on each side, like driving the stretcher. And one of the doctors that was at my elbow said, "Stop, stop, stop. This is his wife. Let her see him." And they stopped. And when I looked, it was Julian, and he had a white sheet pulled all the way up to his head. Like you couldn't even see the neck, just his head. And I just remember, I always say this part because Julian and I, like height-wise, he's a pretty tall guy, and I'm short next to him. And we always laugh because, you know, no matter what size of bed we have, his feet always kind of fall off. But what I noticed on the stretcher was how shrunken he looked, and that his feet or the length of his body didn't even reach the end of the stretcher. And I don't know why to this day, I see it vividly, I see it clearly, and that is what I remember. And he had shrunken just from the time of that morning. He looked so little on the stretcher. And I also noticed how pale, or I should say how yellow he looked. He's a light-skinned dude. Like you said, you knew him before I did. So his complexion was very yellow. Like it was bloodless. And I just remember laying my hand on top of his head, and he was cold, cold, and he wasn't breathing. And I just said, "You are a child of the living God. You're not going to do this, Father. Father, take control." And I just remember saying, "You're a child of the living God." And I said, "Matthew and Andrew are waiting for you. You cannot do this, Julian. Father, you cannot do this." And I just kept repeating that with my hand on his head. And they actually pushed me away and said, "We have to go. We have to go. We have to go. We're going to the cath lab." So they, and you know, as I describe it, none of this lasted that long. It was all like this.
Right.
But as I tell the story, it may sound longer, but it was a matter of minutes. Laying my hand on him, seeing him, everything was just a flurry. So when they took my hand off and they said, "You have to go into the lobby, the front lobby," at this point, now I'm screaming. Now I'm crying. I'm by myself. I go to the front lobby, and I'm just wailing and crying out to God, like, "What is this?" And that's all I was asking God. And I was just saying to God, "You cannot do this. You cannot do this to Matthew and Andrew." And that was my prayer, was Matthew and Andrew. You cannot do this to Matthew and Andrew. So I'm shaking, and I'm in the front crying. And at this point, I said, "Let me call Dr. Jansen." So I called Dr. Jansen. And when I say let me call Dr. Jansen right now, of course, I'm saying it with sensibility and stuff, but I was hysterical.
Yes.
Then. And I dialed and I said, Aim. They said that he had a heart attack. He's flatlined. And I'm just talking. And then Aim said, he said, I just got here. And lo and behold, when I looked, he was coming through the front doors of the hospital at this point.
Priscilla, that must have been a relief to you, though, just seeing him.
I didn't, to be honest, there was no relief in it because he had flatlined. So Aim being there, it was more of, I don't know, somebody to come help me wail, but I can't say I felt relief because I had been told that Julian was gone. So I don't know if I would call it relief. I would call it, I'm not by myself now.
Yes.
Because at this point, he had flatlined. So relief can only come from he's back.
Exactly.
And
I'm with you.
Just somebody to share with the hysteria, with the prayers, with something. But I can't say I just was like, oh my God, like somebody to help me pray, to
Pray.
help me scream, to help me beseech God.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so so at that point, Aim also becomes like, what are you talking about? You know, also confused, because last time we had spoken, I had told him, don't bother coming, you know, and he had said, I'm just going to pass by. So, you know, so he goes to the front of to the admissions desk and was like, okay, I'm here for Julian Sotimi. I'm here with his wife, Priscilla, and, you know, I'm also his cardiologist. And they said, well, you know, we can't let you back there because we don't recognize your affiliation with this hospital. He wasn't one of the doctors that practices at the hospital. So they were like, you're really here as a loved one. So we were basically, he was begging or beseeching, like, okay, well, can I get a doctor to come out and tell me anything? Because his wife is telling me this. This is what she's been told. And like basically as somebody in the medical field, more information, he needed more information. So again, I don't know how it worked out. I know it's by the grace of God, but by the time I turned around, Aim was able to get back into the doors. So I'm now at the front lobby and Aim has gone behind in the lobby. So while now I'm back in the lobby again by myself, Aim has gone inside. I hear on the intercom and I hear code blue, cath lab, code blue. And again, I am not a medical person, but I've watched enough shows to know that code blue means the person's gone. Normally when they say code blue, when I watch movies, it's done. So when I heard cath lab, I knew that's where Julian is. So I just put my head on the floor and started screaming and crying out, mercy, Father, mercy, mercy for Matthew, mercy, mercy, Father, mercy for Andrew, just over and over and over, mercy for them, not for me. I mean, all I could think was, God, you promised when I had these children that you were going to take care of them, and the way that they love their father. And, you know, like, I just couldn't imagine. So I just kept screaming, mercy, mercy for Matthew, mercy for Andrew, mercy for Matthew. And at this point, I'll give it to Julian to explain what was going on with you. Or
okay, but what about when you go to the fact when what's it called?
When they called? Okay, so at this point, so Julian wants me to continue. So as I'm screaming mercy for Matthew, mercy for Andrew, I look up and they sent out the hospital chaplain. And this woman is walking towards me. And I look at her and I just feel, I didn't want her to touch me. And I started shaking my hand, like to push her away and saying, don't touch me. And I started to say, don't touch me. And I was very hysterical. So she said, I'm not, just come with me. I won't touch you. I won't touch you. Because in that moment, I felt like if I touched her or if I accepted her embrace, it was saying goodbye to Julian, because I had heard code blue cath lab. And then all of a sudden, there's a chaplain walking towards me. So in that moment, and, you know, beautiful woman. There was nothing about her that was dark or foreboding or anything. I just felt like she was bringing a finality or a sense of final, something that I wasn't ready for, or that I didn't want.
So Priscilla, by not hugging her or by not touching her, I am sensing that you had hope. I see it as an act of faith. Yes, the situation looks so dire, but I'm not going to accept it. I'm still going to pray. And, you know, the Bible says faith is a substance of things hoped for. So like Abraham hoped against hope, as the Bible says. So you were hoping, even though you had seen, you were seeing all the negativity, you had seen everything that was happening, but I'm not accepting it. I'm still going to pray into this situation. I'm still pushing in. in prayer. So
Yes.
you were not ready
Yes.
for the chaplain. I think that was an act of faith, and that was very brave. So that's something to, I think that was a pause for thought moment, and I just had to highlight it.
Yes. So Priscilla, at that time, even though you've heard Cold Blue, you know that a chaplain is coming. So a lot of people would have said, "This is it. Let me wail." But you decided that this is not the end. Let me continue. I am not going to accept this. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. That's so true. And one of the parts that I also remember so vividly is that as I had stated earlier, I lost my mom in 1997. So my mom never met Matthew and Andrew. And I just remember during the period of, pregnancy, not having my mom there was very big. And I just remember and no disrespect to any of my aunties and I have wonderful friends whose mothers, everybody was always willing to jump in and help. But I just remember that it was God that I would talk to all the time. And I remember saying to God that these boys are yours, that if you leave them to me, I'll probably jack them up or screw them up some way, somehow. So God, please take control. And I said that when I was pregnant with both Matthew and Andrew. I remember holding my belly and saying that, and it's so significant because without my mom being there, I felt like, what can I do for these kids that I'm being blessed with? I need you, God, to take control. So when I was praying to God in that moment, when I was saying mercy for Matthew, mercy for Andrew, I actually remember reminding God that, remember, these are your kids. And if you're going to take Julian away, you're going to leave them with me? You can't do that. That part also strengthened me. And I felt like when I had reminded God about that, there was that hope that, you know what, I've been bold, and please don't think I challenge God. I don't challenge God for anything. As a matter of fact, I'm probably more fearful than anything. But as I look back, that is the one time in my life that I can feel or say, like, I actually said back to God, you promised me you would take care of them. So that strengthened me to remind him that you're not going to take Julian, because remember, you said you were going to take care of these boys. And I'm a mess, Lord, so don't leave them with just me. You can't do that.
Priscilla, so. I resonate with you there because I think you're being real, and I'm sure listeners and viewers will agree with me that's faith. That's actually faith when you remind God of your agreement and his promises to you. And in times of desperation, there are just some acts of faith or it calls for desperate actions. So you're just giving us an example of what faith is like. And, in such simplicity, and we can see, we are yet to see the results of your faith. So please go on. This is very interesting. Okay. Please go on.
Okay. All right.
So you went to the back.
Yes. And so when I was led to the back, that's where Ayim was standing, and they had put him in a room that was next to the room that Julian was being worked on. And in that room, all you could hear, we couldn't see Julian, but all we could hear was the steady beep sound of just boop. Basically, the heart had stopped. And all I could see was Ayim, frantic, crying, and he said, keep shocking him, keep shocking him. So I come in, and now I'm looking at Ayim and just seeing, this goes back to when you were asking me prior, was I relieved? The opposite happened, because to see Ayim frantic and crying and screaming and hysterical, that actually made me know that this this is bad. Because Aim is a doctor, very stoic, very professional. And even 10 years prior, when this had happened with Julian, he was the voice of calmness, who said, okay, Priscilla, this is what's happening. This is the game plan. This is this. But to honestly see Dr. Jamson in the state of where he is praying, he's speaking tongues. He's walking up and down. He's shouting to the medical team, keep shocking him, and there are tears running, and he's got on his phone, he's got his wife, who is like the leader of the prayer team, a prayer warrior.
And I think we've got her on the line. I can see a comment from, is that Nina Johnson?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
She's
wow.
saying the
All right.
testimony. She's saying the testimony.
Right on time.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like right on
Yeah,
time.
she said the testimony really changed your lives, and also they witnessed what happened in the beginning till the end. So thank you, Nina, and thank you for your shout.
Right.
God bless you.
So all of them are praying. So Priscilla, please go on. Yeah.
Yes. So like I was saying, in that particular moment, again, to see Dr. Jamson where he was, just emotionally and physically, like when I say physically, the up and down, his actions and he's speaking in tongue and stuff. So it actually made me more, I don't want to say more hysterical, but it did kind of make me a little bit more concerned, because like I said, Aim is a very calming spirit, or has been to me in prior years, and I mean, and even now he's usually very calm. So to see Aim that way actually let me see how dire the situation was. So Aim and I basically were put into a room across from where Julian is, and you can hear it when they're shocking him, because it sounds like pots and pans, like hitting, like if you've got metal pots and pans just kind of hitting. So, Aim is speaking tongue and praying with his wife, Nina, as well as her family and his family from all over. I'm also praying, crying out for Matthew and Andrew. Aim is crying out for Matthew and Andrew. And it's chaos in the room. And I just remember that there was a moment where, the chaplain is also in there with us. And then she makes an attempt to try and calm us down. And, she looked at, both Dr. Jamson and I, and, she said to us, guys, God is also in the silence. And we look at her and we think, are you nuts? We are not going to be silent when we're trying to cry out to God for Julian's life. So we go back screaming. I've got my head on the floor. He's also he's on the floor sometimes. He's in a chair. He's pacing and, speaking tongue. And he's so emotional that, there was also a point where I look at him and I grabbed his arm and I say, Aim, and we're both crying, and I'm like, Aim, are you okay? And he's crying. He's like, yeah. Are you okay? We're like holding each other up, and this goes on for a while, to the point where I just remember having such a huge headache, and I'm sure he probably had worse, even worse than I. And then at a certain point, I'm not sure of who let Aim know, but they let him know that Julian had come back, and basically there was now a pulse, and like you can actually hear the beeping sounds from across the room. Priscilla. And Aim calmed me down and said, okay, they said Julian's back. And then they let us out from that room back into the front lobby. So at this point, I'll give it to Julian so that he can tell you.
So Julian, before you cut,
So Priscilla, how many times were they shooting him to come back to life? It looks like
So
God was in it and they were determined, because normally, how many times do they do normally?
he was shocked normally about what, six times. Julian was shocked about 20, over 20 times. And that was at the behest, and that was at the encouragement and at the prayers and the screaming of Dr. Jamson being back there.
So
had he not been back there, I don't know what would have happened. But 6 times is usually, I believe that's also a legal thing and stuff. But Julian was shocked over 20 times. And again, if Dr. Jamson wasn't back there, beseeching them to keep
3
going.
times the legal limit.
So,
3 times the legal
yeah.
limit.
So just to get it clear before we get Julian on, again, I think this is a pause for thought moment. So we are just seeing again that the act of faith, the Bible says that the heartfelt and persistent prayer of a believer is able to accomplish much. It is dynamic and it has tremendous power. And we can just see God's presence and God's hand in all of this, because if Dr. Jamson had not been there, perhaps they would not have kept going. And your faith and your persistence meant they kept going. But another question that I have with that, because I am in the medical field, I am a pharmacist. And I know that when people go for so long, there's also no oxygen to the brain. And that can also lead to a whole lot of complications if people have been gone for so long and then they come back. So that is also, are you with me? Because the person can be a vegetable, they can have things like spasms, brain memory loss, and so that could be another side of it. So speaking from a medical point of view, that could also have been a side effect of someone having gone for so long, because it looks like he was gone for over 10 minutes or 10 to 12 minutes. Okay.
Yes. And what you bring up is definitely something that I will, when as the story progresses, it was something that I had been told by the surgeon. It was something that, because at this point, it was now that Julian had been gone. So at this point in the story, the totality of the time that he had been gone, we hadn't quite, the doctors hadn't come to talk to me yet. We're still in the midst of all of that happening. But exactly what you said is what I had been told right before they were going to give the decision of whether to have him to operate or let him go. Everything that you just said is everything I was told clear cut, that if this man even makes it through, he's going to be a vegetable. That I was told that clear cut. No sugarcoating, no nothing. And I was even told that the quality of life after what he had been through is basically myself and the children should be prepared to have to take care of him, bathe him, feed him. What you're saying is exactly what I was told to the umpteenth degree, to the point of probably trying to convince me that it would not be a worthwhile life living. But like I said, they'll come later, because I was told exactly that, what you just said. Yeah.
Okay. So Julian, I think you can take it from here from here now and let us know. Are you aware of what's going on? Please speak to us.
So once I got to the ER, when they first did a few tests and stuff like that, then the cardiologist came. Once the cardiologist came, she started asking me a few questions, and it didn't take more than maybe 5-10 minutes, and I passed out. I don't remember anything after that. So the only thing I remember, while all this chaos was going on, was that I came out of my body. Right now, when I came out of my body, I could see my body on the operating table, you know, and you know, and now all the doctors and nurses in the operating room were very little, you know. I couldn't identify who was who, you know. They're all very little. It was just my body that I could see clearly, you know. It reminds me of, you know, when you fly and you're at 30,000 feet, you look down, you see the houses and the, you know, the buildings all very little, you know, the cars and stuff like that. They reminded me of that, you know. So, but I, you know, at that point, I got very confused, you know, because I could see my body, I recognized my body, but I didn't understand what was going on, you know. But looking at my body, looking at the whole earth was so dark. You know, the operating room was dark. You know, not very dark, but I could see my body and the little this thing. But you know, the earth was dark. You know, the operating room too was, you know, slightly, it wasn't appealing at all. You know, so I looked at it, and you know, even if I knew how to come back, I didn't want to come back. You know, because where I was very peaceful and beautiful. You know, so I just looked on my right hand side. I saw this beautiful bright light. You know, and I believe that's what the Bible they call heaven's gate. You know, so I started moving towards the bright light. You know, and you know, halfway through, that's when God stopped me. Okay, now God is a bigger version, or was a bigger version of me. You know, now we are a spirit. You know, very different. I don't know how to explain how we look like over there, but we are not. I'm not the same as a Julian with the head and legs and all this. No, we're different. You know, so we are like a spirit, and God was a bigger version. So he appeared. You know, and as soon as he came, you know, he appeared. You know, he kind of went inside him. You know, like he hugged me. You know, now there are certain words I'm going to be using when I say, you know, like hug and stuff like that. But that's the best way as a human being I could explain it. You know, because that was not exactly what happened. I was kind of like inside God. You know, and then he said, and he always referred to me as son, and I always referred to him as God. You know, I never said Jesus. I never said anything like that. I was always God. And he always called me son. You know, my name, Julian, started with my body in the operating room. Julian was not, it didn't mean anything at that point. You know, and now the funny thing is, when I got out of my body, I never thought of Priscilla, my 2 boys, my bank account, my home, my car, nothing. I mean, everything about the world meant nothing. I didn't even think of it, you know. So anyway, so once God, what was it called? I went inside God, and God just showed me so much love, you know. And I remember when I came back and I was telling Priscilla the love that God has for us, you know. So she kept asking me, you know, how does it feel? How does the love feel like? And the only way I could explain to her was when she started having children, you know, when she had the kids, when the kids came out and they put the kid on the chest, because I remember I was there, the love she had for those boys, you know, I said, you know, just multiply that by 1 million. That's the kind of love I'm talking about. You know, it was so beautiful. I mean, honestly, I did not want to come back. I can't even lie. I can't even pretend. You know, so, you know, but the funny thing is, you know, that once God showed me that love, right, the first thing he said to me was, son, this love that I'm showing you, that is the same love I have for the poor, for the madman, for the homeless guy. And surprisingly enough, he said for the gay guy. Now, when I'm explaining this, because, you know, sometimes, you know, when I'm explaining that, I said to everybody, now, if somebody else had gone through this experience, it could have been different. You know, this was an experience that is an experience for me.
Personal.
You know, and he used certain things because of the way I felt, you know, the way I am or the way I was at that time.
Right.
Right. So he used those things, you know. So the first thing was love. He showed me the love he has for every single human being on earth. You know. And then once he said that was it. He was very quiet, and then I started speaking. You know, the first thing I said to God, I said, God, forgive me of all my sins. Okay. Then I said to him, I said, if this is what you call death, please give me one more chance to make things right with Priscilla and the boys. Now, mind you, you know, earlier on I said once I got out of my body, I never thought of Priscilla or the boys. But for some reason, when I was with God, first thing I thought of was Priscilla and the boys.
Sorry, Julian,
Right.
can I stop you there? I'm
Sure.
just wondering, because you were saying when you came out, you didn't, of course, we heard you didn't think of anything, your house, your bank account, nothing else
Right.
mattered. And at some point, you're now thinking of Priscilla and the boys. I'm just wondering if there is a correlation between that and the prayers or
right. So that is what I believe, right? I believe that by the time God met me, right, Priscilla, the boys, Dr. Jamson's family, and the rest of our friends, the prayers, and these are now there wasn't like a pastor or a deacon or a pope or archbishop. Nobody. These were just normal human beings.
Normal,
right?
yes.
That were there, and these are very close loved ones that sincerely prayed for me. You know, so I believe that God at that point had made up his mind that, you know what, I'm sending this guy back, right? You know, so, you know, but I believe it's the prayers that made me at that point think of
coming back,
Priscilla and the boy.
And before, prior to this, the peace and, you know, experiencing God's presence, you did not really want to come back. So
I honestly didn't want to.
Right. So so with the prayers and with God's agreement, it was that was now sending you back. Am I right? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yes. So by that time, you thought that for the boys, for Priscilla, I would go back, even though you had seen And another question I have, Julian, perhaps you go there. You were saying you saw something more glorious in the distance, which looked like a bit like an entrance into heaven. Were you perceiving that could be, you know, like if you had crossed into that place, you wouldn't have been able to come back? And were you also perceiving that there was more activity? Like if you had stepped into, you had gone further, do you think you would have seen more activity or more people?
You see, so at that point, I wasn't thinking of all that. Okay. It was when I came back and just reflecting, you know, because, you know, I mean, I see you, you know, Priscilla comes, sees me. Once Priscilla leaves, right, I'm all by myself, you know, and at that point, I spent a lot of my time just talking with God, you know, spending time with God, right? You know, and, you know, I believe at that point, you know, I'm very careful to say, you know, I believe at that point that if I had crossed, I don't think I would have come back.
Right.
You know, I don't think I could have come back, you know, and, you know, and I think that's why halfway, you know, but once I came out of my body and I didn't want to come back to earth, the best, I mean, it was just so beautiful. I was just going straight there. I mean, nobody came to nobody introduced me to God or anything. I didn't see anybody. You know, I just knew that that's where I was supposed to be going. You know, now the whole, I don't understand how things work, you know, but I just know I got out of my body. I didn't want to come onto earth, and I was just going straight towards what's called that bright light.
Right.
You know? And it was just so beautiful. And that was the best thing, you know, at that point to do.
Okay. All right. Julian, take us back to the conversation. We want to hear what God said to you and what you said to God and what God said to you. And also,
I think there were 3 things.
Okay.
There were 3 things that I said, you know, was the first one was what I said. Well, I was, God forgive me of all my sins. And then I also said, if this is what you call death, you know, give me one more chance to make things right with Priscilla and the boys. And then the third one was that I know you have work for me to do on earth. Let me know what my purpose is, and I promise I'm going to get it done. You know, so once I said that, that's when God spoke. And then he said to me, son, the first thing he did was he anointed me. He said, son, I anoint you. Then he said, son, I'm going to make you whole. Okay? Because like you said earlier on, I was out of my heart stopped for over 10 minutes. So you can imagine, I mean, obviously I'm going to be a vegetable, right? So, you know, so God had to say, God said, I'm going to make you whole. You know, now mind you, at that point, I didn't really understand what God was saying, but no, once God speaks, it is what it is.
Amen.
You know, it is what it is. So he says, because you know, thinking about it, there wasn't even one time that I questioned what God said. I never, you know, once he said something, that was it. Because I could have asked him, what do you mean by going to make me whole? You know, why are you anointing me? You know, and stuff like that.
Were you speaking in English? Were you or in Tree or in Fanti? So maybe Priscilla has taught you some Fanti.
So that is a very good question. So now, you know, I always say when I'm telling my testimony, I always tell, the best way as a human being is to say we spoke about it, A, B, C, D, but we never spoke. Now, over there, everything is a feeling, right? So God spoke to me, or I spoke to God. Everything was a feeling. It wasn't words. Now the words came about once I came into my body, and then everything downloaded into English.
Right. So Julian,
now a lot of these things, if you ask me, I don't know how I won't be able to explain it. You know, I've come to a point where I don't try to explain certain things,
right?
Because I know as a human being, there's no way I'll be able to explain it.
We are limited. We are limited in our vocabulary. Limited in our we are limited.
Right. Right.
Okay. Go on.
You know,
go on. Go on
then
with the conversation.
The third thing he said to me was, "Son, you have a pure heart." You know, and now I believe God said that, because if he hadn't said that and I came back, I would have been one of the most confused human beings alive. Because I wasn't a perfect person, you know, based on what we are taught in church. Okay, well, most churches, okay, I should be the first person going to hell. Okay, I should have been the first person. So God wanted me to make sure that I knew. Okay, so that was grace right there. Okay, me coming back is just purely grace. You know, God wanted me to know that as a human being, it's almost impossible not to sin. Almost impossible. You can't be a human being and not sin. And that's why Jesus came, and you know, his only son came, died for us, right? To cleanse us all. You know. So he said to me, so basically he looks at the heart. You know, and it's very unfortunate that we don't have most pastors, you know, preach more about grace. You know, we are more focused on prosperity and this and that and all that stuff. You know, but I think people need to at least, you know, if they don't, they use my testimony to know, focus more on grace than anything else.
Amen.
You know, then he went ahead and said, "Son, all I want you to do, okay, is to spread your testimony. He said, your testimony is going to bring a lot of souls to me. He said to me, I do not want you to be a pastor. Okay? Then that's when he said, as a matter of fact, 90% of churches in this world are not present.
Can you really say that again? Because that to echo to people how
right.
Yeah.
119 or 90?
90. I mean, it's huge.
We
The
have
way I
work to
explain to
do.
people that when you see 10 churches,
Mhm.
it's only in one.
Mm.
He said to me, churches are a business.
So,
Okay.
so
You know,
now, how is
so-
your
so- what's that?
looking back? Sorry, Julian. Looking back now, since you came back from this, how is your prayer life and how is your communication?
No, I
with God?
think, Patsy, I think we're jumping the gun.
Okay.
I think we are going to wait to answer that question like towards the end when everything is over. We would want to know that. So I
Right.
think we should pause on that. Yes. So go
Okay.
on, Julian.
Okay, so like I said, so he said to me that all he wants me to do is to spread my testimony. Okay, and my testimony is going to bring a lot of souls to him. Okay, then he said he didn't want me to be a pastor. He said he's not in 90% of churches. And then he said to me that if you choose to spread your testimony through writing a book or a movie, son, I do not want you to benefit not even a red cent out of your testimony. All the proceeds you get in your testimony needs to go to the poor. Not even a red cent. Red cent should go into your go to you, you know. And then he, then I actually did ask him that, is the earth hell? And then once you die, you go to heaven. And they said, son, you will never understand what's it called? You never know what hell looks like because that wasn't your path. You know, so I will never understand or never know how hell looks like. He says the world is so dark because of all the evil on earth. You know, so that's why I was seeing the earth very dark because there's so much evil on earth.
Did he say anything about wanting to come back, or like Jesus wanting to come back?
He did say he said to me that he really wants to come back, but he's not going to come until every single soul on earth has heard about him. And that he also made it very clear to me that he has people just like me out there going into different remote areas, spreading and talking about him. Talking about him. So he made all of that clear. And I think God also made a lot of things. I've come to realize that he didn't want me to come back thinking I was special or to have a big head, thinking that I was I'm all that, thinking that I'm this and that. Because he made it very clear from the beginning that the same love he has for me, he has for the poor person, for the homeless person. So I shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm special. And the same thing, he also said that, I want you to spread your testimony. Your testimony will bring friends, bring people to him, right? But at the same time, he also said that he has people just like me out there spreading, talking, whatever assignment God has given them, they're doing it. So, he made sure that, I had it there because he knows how, we human beings, we come back thinking that we are all God, oh man, I was with God, or, so this, no. Don't get it twisted, And then as soon as he explained, what was it called? why the earth was dark and, you know, stuff like that. And then like a big wind up, I just went straight into my body. Big, this thing, you know, I just went straight back into my body.
So
you know.
did you,
And,
sorry, Julian, so how long was this process? We do know that you were away for 10 to 12 minutes. Did it seem that long? Is that what it seemed like to you?
I was actually very surprised when I was told I was out for 10 minutes, because I honestly felt I was with God for like a day, you know. But I don't know. That's how I feel. I thought I was with God for a while, you know. Now, mind you, there's nothing like time over there. There's nothing like time, you know.
In the realm
on
of
the
the
other
spirit,
side,
there's no distance.
you know, there's nothing like time. So I don't know, you know. But yeah. But it felt like a day.
Right.
It felt like I was with God for a while. Yeah.
And then you come
know.
straight back into your body.
I came straight into my body.
Right.
You know, and you know, the funny thing is, when I came back into my body, I don't remember anything. But there was one, and I'm not sure if it was at the first hospital or the second place, but I remember a nurse opened my eyes, right? You know, and I opened my eye and I just saw her like looking at me, and I said, "Who is this? He has glaucoma on his eyes, right?" And then that was it, you know. But I've come to realize that God kept leaving clues, you know. So a lot of clues were left, you know. But later, when I came back and I got consciousness and everything, I started understanding why God did this or why God said this and stuff like that. So as we go along, you know, you're gonna see a lot of things that God, you know, you could tell that this was really orchestrated by God. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
You know?
Okay. So I'm
going to pass.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you come back to your body. So now, so what are the doctors doing now with you?
Right. So I'm going to pass it on to Priscilla, because at that point I was unconscious. I don't remember anything, but I think that is when, you know, based on what Priscilla was saying, that's when now that I came back, they were now going to start opening the artery that was blocked.
Right.
So they were now going to start the whole. So everything that was they're shocking me. They're just trying to get my heart back, get me back. So once I came back, then they were what's it called? They were now going to what's it called? Now do the work. Yes.
Okay.
So I'll pass it back to Priscilla.
Right.
Okay, so as Julian said, we're still at Howard County General at this point. So where I had left off was that they had sent Dr. Jamson and I to the waiting area, and Julian was left in the back going through what he went through with meeting the Almighty. But on our end, the cardiologist came out. And at this point, Dr. Jamson was with me every step of the way. And the cardiologist came out to tell us that, okay, you know, at this point, we have I guess to say, a live body to work on. So they needed to open up the artery. Whatever had caused the issue in the first place, they were now about to address it after bringing him back. So they gave most of the details to both Dr. Jansen and I, but they could have probably just given it to just him, because I just kind of nodded. The medical terminology was far beyond, you know, my comprehension. But and again, just, you know, that's where, you know, Dr. Jansen was my all in all, and I would just kind of look to him, and if he was nodding, then I nodded. But you know, they gave us the details of what they were trying to do with opening up Julian's artery. And they went away for a bit to work on him. And then they came back and said they were only able to open it a minimal amount. And what they had done would only basically suffice for a limited amount of time with where Julian was at. He had so much plaque or something like that, but what they were able to do at Howard County was not going to cut it. for Julian and the dire situation that he was in. So they told us that he needed to be airlifted to Johns Hopkins, which is a facility that's world renowned, and they were more than qualified or equipped to do what Julian needed. So they said that, okay, now Julian needs to be airlifted. His situation is dire. We need to get him there as quickly as possible because the small opening that they were able to make is not something that would last long, So they brought me a stack of, paperwork, basically, all of the papers for liability and, yada, 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 that kind of stuff. So, as I'm being told about liability and, airlifting and what that entails, they are then updated from the pilot or from the powers that be, if you will, that the weather wasn't conducive to actually to flying that day. So again, God is at play here, to where because of the weather, they couldn't fly. So of all days, of all times, with everything that Julian is going through, now we're being told with that he can't be airlifted. So now they said he has to be transported by ambulance.
Sorry, Priscilla. So how long was it going to take for him to fly?
Okay, so Johns Hopkins to fly would have been about what 5 minutes.
Wow. And how long by road when time is of the essence?
So that time of the morning where everybody's going to work, Johns Hopkins on a good day might be like 45 minutes. So for that day with traffic and everything, maybe an hour and a half.
And time is of the essence, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So now, so now the stack of papers and the liability has doubled or tripled, if you will. So now, they're being told that, okay, the ambulance has to be prepared for him. He needs special doctors and special equipment and all of that stuff. So they've got to prepare an ambulance customized or suited to his situation. There are more liabilities with accidents on the road if anything happens. There's traffic along the way. So there's a lot more things to be afraid of, if you will, right? So, all I'm thinking at this point is, wow, God, like, it felt almost like every challenge that could possibly come was coming. So, looking back, I know that it happened so that we could know that it was only God.
Absolutely.
But at that point, it felt like something was trying to work against us, because it was like, okay, he's finally not out of the woods, but he's made it this far. And now he finally crawled his way this far. I shouldn't say he, I should say, because God is in control, but it felt like, an upward battle. So you finally make it 2 steps forward, and now it feels, and I'm saying feels because, come to know that there was glory at the end. But at that moment, it feels like 3 steps back, because here you had a helicopter, and now you're in an ambulance, and you're being told that time is of the essence. So anyway, I went ahead and signed all the paperwork because I'm thinking, why are we wasting time? There's no other alternative. So let's get this thing going. So we signed the paperwork and everything, or I signed the paperwork rather. And Dr. Jansen, at this point, Dr. Jansen's wife, Nina, had joined us at the hospital, along with Dr. Babala, who is also another friend and an intern and Julian's internist, and then my younger brother. So we had some support there with prayers and stuff like that. But so at this point, Dr. Jansen and his wife make their way over to Johns Hopkins. I come with my brother to make sure the kids are okay and to tell them that God is in control. I did not give them any details on what was actually going on. I did tell them, however, that Dad needed surgery. But again, the big thing was God is in control, so there's no fear. And because of their faith and what they know about God, that he never fails, you know, they weren't too concerned. So at this point, Dr. Jansen and his wife are on their way to Hopkins. I am getting myself prepared to go there. When I was on my way there, Dr. Jansen called and said, you know, we've been sitting here and we're actually waiting on Julian, and Julian hasn't arrived. And at this point, there had been enough time that had passed that it didn't make sense that Julian hadn't arrived in the ambulance there. So I called Howard County General and kind of frantic again, saying, where is he? You know, you guys told us that time is of the essence, and Dr. Jansen and his wife were able to make it there, and they're waiting, and they're actually waiting on the patient that you're telling us that, you know, he needed to be there yesterday, you know, and he's not there yet. So, and mentioning that again, just to keep showing all the hurdles and all the challenges and obstacles that, you know, we kept facing along the way. So I finally make it over to Hopkins, and I wasn't, you know, too long, but by the time I got there, I believe Julian had also just arrived. So again, something that should have taken a short amount of time, it took about 2 hours, right? About two and a half hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours for Julian to get there. Again, another clue that God is in control, because after being told that this man needs to get there and they were going to airlift him, which would have been about 10 minutes, he's now taken 2 to 2.5 hours to get there. So just another checkbox on what God is doing and how impossible it all seemed along the way. So when I finally get there, the surgeons or the team comes to talk to us about their game plan or what they plan to do for Julian. So the first surgeon or doctor that came to talk to us, he was extremely negative. And this is where, Justina, when you were talking about all the damage that had been done or what Julian had gone through, this is where they actually kind of clear-cut told me that, look, you know, you guys have brought this case from Howard County over to Hopkins, and basically it's a dismal case, was basically what they were saying. One of the doctors likened it to opening the hood of a car that, you know, has been through all kinds of accidents or something along. I'm not getting it, you know, word for word, but it was negatively kind of described that way, that basically you don't even know what you're about to see, and whatever you're about to see wasn't going to be good. So we were told that Julian is not facing the best of circumstances, that with what he had been through, all the trauma, the lack of blood flow, the lack of oxygen, we're looking at somebody who will come back with, you know, brain damage, kidney failure. I mean, you name it. I was told that this is what this man was going to have, and he was going to be a vegetable. But, you know, we were moving forward at this point. We hadn't gotten to the last resort. So I believe the first thing that they wanted to do was try and open the artery more, because they were better equipped than Howard was. So they went ahead and did whatever they needed to do. They came back in some hours, maybe an hour or two, and came to update us that was not successful, that they were unable to, there was too much plaque buildup or something like that, and that was not successful. Then there was, again, this is more medical than I know, so I'm just doing my best with kind of memory and layman's terms. There was talk of maybe another stent or something like that. So there was talk about maybe putting in another stent or something. And that also was not successful. So basically, the last resort, which we were not believing we would get to, because again, it was more so faith-based, that no, God is not going to allow it to get to this point, than I guess medically based, because where he had come from, the last resort should be one of the things on the table. But for us, it was like, no, we don't want it to get there. But it got to the point where after they had gone away 2 times and come back, you know, and each step along the way, we're sitting in a waiting room, and it's Dr. Jansen, myself, and his wife, Nina, and we're reading the Bible. We are praying, looking up verses to encourage us and to remind us that God is in control. But it was a very hard day, very hard time, because we just kept hearing negative results each time. And each time along the way, whenever the doctors would come and update us or tell us, well, we're going to try this, I would look to Dr. Jansen, and he would, I guess, interpret the terminology or the words for me, and, you know, kind of encourage and say, well, you know, if I was on the other end working on Julian, this makes sense. What they're doing makes sense. Again, it was a hard time, because there was never a moment where we thought we're in the clear and it's going to be, we kind of knew that what we were facing was dire, but we just wanted Julian here, and whatever we needed to do afterwards we're just going to do it. So the last resort, the doctor came and basically said, okay, at this point, the only thing left is open heart surgery. Now, when he said that, you know, I'm looking over to Aim, which I'd been doing pretty much the whole time, to get that nod or that, you know, that understanding, or, you know, that interpretation from him. And I look over, and Aim this time is not facing me for me to get that contact. Nina, his wife, also heard, you know, has, you know, is talking towards Aim. So both of them aren't facing me, nothing deliberate, but maybe just, you know, talking or whatever. But at this point, the doctor is speaking, or the surgeon, and he's saying that where basically where Julian is right now, he's been through a lot, and that from mourning what they had done with his body, opening, you know, trying to open his artery, CPR, shocking him that many amount of times, that the trauma that his body had faced, whatever pain, whatever it was that they had been doing to this man since 7 a.m, that he might not even make it through surgery, that trauma alone on his body, and that if he were to even make it, he would be a vegetable, that he would be facing kidney failure, brain damage, I mean, a whole host of stuff. And when this surgeon was speaking to me, he just kept talking and talking, and you know, and as he's talking, I'm not really hearing the words. The words are not, I'm not comprehending what he's saying, I guess. And it just sounded like he was talking nonsensical things, like wah, 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 wah. And then I just remember hearing the word puppet in my head. And when I heard the word puppet, I knew it to mean that God was going to be the one that did the surgery, and that the person standing in front of me was going to be his puppet.
Right.
So
right.
The word puppet is, to this day, I stick by it. I hear it. Puppet is there.
Right.
Now, the interpretation of puppet, I'm not going to claim that somebody spoke sentences to me and said, it means. But it was like I heard the word puppet and the meaning became clear as day. And the clarity or how I heard it or how I understood it was that this man standing in front of you going wah, 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 is not going to be the one to work on Julian. He is going to be a puppet.
Right. So sorry, Priscilla, can I stop you just for a second? Because I think this is another pause for thoughts moment. So at this time, we can't really imagine the anguish you're going through. Dr. Jampson, who is a cardiologist and a friend, at this time has his the friend hat on, and he can see the situation is quite dire, and you were turning to him and it's like he's gone. So you just had to, you stood in faith with all the fear, with all the anguish. You just stood in faith and made the decision that they should go ahead and make that open heart surgery. So even though they were trying to be so negative and saying that he'd gone through so much, he'd gone through, the body's gone through so much trauma, it's almost like inhumane for you to say they should go ahead and do the open heart surgery. But it's like God is speaking to you, and you are saying yes. You're fighting for your family, you're fighting for your boys, you're fighting for your husband. So I think these are real take-home lessons for all of us. You know what you can do when you're facing an impossible situation. Things that may seem impossible with man, but the Bible says all things are possible with God. You're standing, and God is saying to you that this surgeon who is going to do the surgery is going to be a puppet. Basically, God is going to work through him, through his hands, to do this surgery. Wow. So that is really a take-home message, that God can work through people. So you may be believing God for something. God can work through the doctor's hands, for that miracle that you want. Okay. Take it on. Take it away, Priscilla.
Okay. So from that moment on, there was a confidence, because I know what I had heard, or what was said to me, and the word that I heard. So I said to him, let's do this. Basically, there's no alternative. Why are we wasting time? Let's get this done.
I need to ask him, what's it called? What
are the alternatives? When he, during the time where he was listing out everything that could possibly go wrong and all the reasons not to do it. And I had, at one point I was getting annoyed, and I basically asked him, well, what are the alternatives? And he actually did. He told me, he said, look, there's some people who would let their loved ones go. And, looking back on it, he did nothing wrong. They're supposed to tell you the truth. They're supposed to, they're supposed to say it like it is. And that's what he did. So, nothing personal. I'm sure we later on saw him, and he'd become quite cool with us, I guess, if you will. But he was the same one that had said, in these circumstances, there's some that would let their loved ones go. But, like I had said, I knew what I heard, and that's what I took and told him, let's move forward and let's get this done. But one of the things that happened afterwards that is very significant and speaks to the power of being surrounded by prayerful support, friends, brothers and sisters in Christ, is I also had one of my friends who came down. Well, actually, I had two of my friends come down, but one in particular came down. And the funny thing was, after we had spoken to the surgeon, and after I had told him with all that confidence that he should go ahead and do the surgery, after he left, that confidence, I wouldn't say it went away, but I think that moment I guess I'll use the word again, that moment of confidence kind of seeped a little. It was like a deflation, like a balloon deflating, because I think it came to hit me. But after the surgeon had walked away and my friend walked in, and, you know, at this point I had tears in my eyes, even though I had confidently said, do what you need to do for Julian. She comes in and she says, what's wrong? What's wrong? You know, and I said, Ifwa, I said, this is what the doctor said. You know, they're going to move ahead with the surgery, but this is it. And I kind of repeated most of what the doctor had told me, the surgeon had told me. And Ifwa looked at me, and that's my girl from way back when. And, you know, she's not one to coddle either. She says things as it is. Ifwa said to me, she said, Priscilla, are you going to listen to God, or are you going to listen to man?
Oh, man.
And then she started singing, He's a miracle working God. And she sang that, and then, you know, like slowly, you know, she was singing quietly. Then I picked it up, and then Nina picked it up, and then, you know, I believe I also started to hum it. And we're sitting in a waiting room, not caring, not giving a flying fig who is in there. And we are singing a song of praise. And it was in that moment just so amazing, because you've got other people there who are there for their loved ones, and they're in a waiting area. They have their laptops on. Some are taking maybe conference calls, just kind of, and here is a group of people singing praise music. And so that was significant. That was just amazing. So we sat there for a while, and they had started the surgery, and they had the hospital administrator come to tell us that, look, this surgery is going to take about 6 hours. At this point, it was 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock p.m. And mind you, we had started this journey or this experience since 4:30 a.m. and it's now 4 p.m. So they tell us that the surgery is going to last six more hours. And basically, there's no need for us to sit in the waiting room for 6 more hours. So we should go home, maybe freshen up, and, you know, they would give us a call and let us know how the surgery is going and all of that stuff. So the administrator gave me a card with the number on it so that I could call him directly, because if you call the hospital, it'll say press 1 to go to this area, press 2, you know, yada, yada, yada. So he said, take this card so that you can call me directly, and I can update you on how things are going with Julian. And I said, thank you. So Dr. Jansen and his wife go home to freshen up. My friends also leave. I also leave, come home. And finally, seeing the boys after quite a long day, they are, of course, eager to find out, is Dad out of surgery? Is he okay? You know, what's going on? So again, I gave them as little information as possible without lying, and said that Dad is still in surgery. God is still in control, and it should be done soon. And I said, boys, let's go out to dinner, something to take their minds off of it. And, you know, I'm waiting for the hospital to let me know when he's out of surgery. So I came home, and we quickly go off to dinner. And it's about 6:30 or so, or something like that. So we go to dinner, and the waiter or waitress comes and takes our order. And as soon as she takes the order, the phone rings. So my cell phone rings, and my heart starts beating really fast, because I had been told by the surgeon that this surgery was going to take 6 hours. And literally it had been maybe 2 hours, and I'm getting a phone call. So my first thought was, is he gone? Did he die at the operating table? Because that's what they had warned me about, that he had been through too much trauma, that he might not even make it through surgery. So that was my first thought. But I'm with the boys, and I missed the phone call. That was one of the other things, is when I picked up my cell phone to answer it, I could see that it was coming from Johns Hopkins, but I missed the phone call because of the, you know, Wi-Fi or the signal, whatever. So I leave the boys at the table, and I run outside, and I try and call the hospital back. And lo and behold, it says press 1 for this, 2 for that. So I looked, and I had left the card at home. So now I rush back to the restaurant, and I'm frantic, and I'm like, guys, we need to take the food. So at this point, the boys know that something's wrong, but of course, I'm not saying anything to them. So we hurry up and we grabbed the food that they had just served us, came home. And while I was driving home, I was driving erratically. You know, the boys are very quiet because later on they told me that they could tell that something was very, very wrong. And all I could think to myself is Julian gone? Is Julian gone? So I'm driving with these boys in the back and I'm praying and I'm just wondering, what phone call did I miss? What did they, you know, what were they going to tell me? So I get home and I get the card and I call them directly. And I'm frantic and I'm saying, hi, this is Julian's wife, and what's wrong? And he said, calm down. He's out of surgery. And when he said he's out of surgery, I still needed confirmation. I was like, what do you mean he's out? Like, he's out and he's alive, or he's out like he didn't make it? Like, I need clarity.
Oh.
So he said he is out. He is done. He's back.
Amazing.
You know?
So 6 hours of surgery was done in 2 hours, and it was successful, and he's out in recovery. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. God indeed worked through the surgeon's hands. This is amazing. Okay, go on.
And in short time. So I called Dr. Jansen and his wife, and we all make our way back to Johns Hopkins. And at that time, they only allowed me to go in and see him. When I went to go see him, of course, he wasn't lucid. He was still under induced coma. He was in an induced coma. So he wasn't talking or anything. And I'll be honest, he did not look. I'm not going to say. And when I walked in, he was glowing, and he still looked very pale. He had, I don't even know the amount of tubes that he had all over him. And I just remember walking in, and then I asked the nurse that was there, and I asked her, can he hear me? And she said, oh yeah, go ahead and speak to him, because, people have come out of comas and said they had heard everything their loved ones said. So I started singing his favorite song, Days of Elijah, and then, told him that Matthew and Andrew are waiting for you, and they can't wait to see you. We love you. Hurry up, come home. And that was the end of that for me. I could finally breathe, but yeah, I'll pass it. Yeah.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, when Priscilla came in and was singing, praying and singing for me, I could hear everything, but I was trying to give it a thumbs up or try and hold it, but I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And I was wondering, what is going on? I mean, I just couldn't move. I didn't know what was going on, but then I went back to sleep quickly. So I fell asleep, so I actually told her when I came back that if she had insulted me, I'd have heard everything.
Gillian, at that time, have you both forgotten about the silent treatment you're giving each other?
I didn't even think of it. I mean, like, as a matter of fact, when I saw her walking in, when they took the tubes out, I said, sweetheart, sweetheart, I was so excited. So she looked behind her.
So I remembered. He forgot. But I remembered because I looked behind me like, who is he talking to? This morning, we weren't even, sweetheart, huh?
Yeah. So when I woke up, I actually got a little bit confused. I was wondering where I was and stuff like that. But I had all these tubes. I had I had tubes everywhere.
Right.
And I couldn't speak because I had the what's it called? Ventilator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had it down my throat and stuff like that. So I believe they called Priscilla that I was awake.
Mm-hmm.
So Priscilla dashed on there. When she came, the funny thing is, all I wanted to talk to her about my experience with God. I wanted to talk to her about God. But I couldn't speak, and I got very frustrated, So it got to a point where I started puking, right? Because I was trying to speak and I couldn't speak. So the nurses came to suck everything out, and then they told Priscilla, you know, you have to leave because this guy wants to tell you something, but he can't speak until that thing is taken out, you know, and it's going to take a couple of days, I think. I mean, because I think, you know, with what I've gone through, I didn't think I'll be able to breathe by myself, you know. So she left. Now, once she left, it wasn't maybe an hour or maybe less. Once she left, the doctors were doing their walk, their rounds. And one of the doctors said to the surgeon that, I think this guy can breathe. And the surgeon said, oh, no, it's impossible because he just got out of surgery not too long ago. So, and he just woke up. Not now. I mean, eventually, but not. He doesn't think so. So he says, no. Just look at the monitor. Look at this. So he looked at it and said, okay, they should call, I think it's a respiratory doctor or something. So they called someone. The person came to do some tests, and they said, oh, no, he can breathe by himself. So then they took it out. Now, the funny thing is, once they took it out, I go, man, thank you guys so much. I spoke with this force, like, thank you so much. And this was so uncomfortable. You know, to the point where the doctors and the nurses kind of looked at me. That normally when people just come out of surgery, you know, they're very weak and the way they speak. But I spoke with so much confidence, you know. So anyway, so I called Priscilla back and said, the ventilator's out. So she turns around and she rushes back. So that's when she came, I started walking. Now I noticed that she was walking very carefully and slowly, slow speed. So that's when I said, sweetheart, you know. So she looks back, you know, but I didn't even think of anything, you know. So she comes and I go, as soon as she gets to me, she starts asking me, what's 5 times 5? What's 6 times 6 plus 2 minus 3? And I kept answering everything, right? Now, she plays these games when we were traveling with the boys. So I wasn't surprised that she was doing the same thing, you know. But I told her, I said, look, I got better things to talk about. Let's forget about these games that you go playing, you know.
But Julian, was she trying to check the function of your brain? Your memory,
my brain.
yes, checking if yes, right.
Because the good thing, like when I said, sweetheart, you know, and she came, I said, oh, the boys. So she knew that I could remember her and I remembered the boys. So now she wants to check and make sure. So she said, this guy, you know, I mean, I could, you know, she had a calculated everything I was saying, but I was just give her the answers, right? So then I said to her that, oh, I met with God and stuff like that. So I noticed that her giving everything kind of went back down because she was saying, oh my goodness, I think there's something really wrong with this guy. Because now I'm talking about God, right? So he knew that maybe the brain was a little bit faulty, right? You know. So I said, no, you know, I said, look, I met with God, this is what God said, and So after I finished saying all those things, he says, okay, hold on a second. So she calls Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson picks up the phone and says, somebody wants to speak to you. So now Dr. Johnson is thinking that, oh, maybe the doctors want to give an update or something like that. So, you know, so when she gives the phone to me and I go, Achia was going down. And this guy just dropped the phone. I mean, like he was confused. But he later told me that he hasn't met anybody who's gone through this surgery that has spoke with that that force, or you know. So he leaves his practice and comes down to Hopkins. Now, only one person can be with me at one time, right? So Priscilla walks out and Dr. Johnson comes in, and I go, what's going on now? He comes in and he's asking me, what's your wife's name? What's your first son's name? What's your second son's name? And I'm thinking, man, these two, there's something wrong with those two folks. There's definitely something wrong with them, right? So he's asking me questions, and I say, yeah, you know, I said to him, I said, by the way, when are you supposed to go? I know you're supposed to go to Ghana in like 2 weeks or so. You know, so he got excited when I said that, because he realized that I remembered a lot of things. And then he asked me a couple of questions. I said, oh, you know, we're supposed to have a meeting on the day it happened at 4 p.m., I hope he called the person to let the person know that I was not going to be able to make it, and so he remembered that. I remember that meeting. I remember the people. So he was very happy, But then I started talking to him about, oh man, Christmas we're going to go to Ghana, and I can't wait to go to Ghana and stuff like that. And I think apparently, from what Nina told me, he came home and he wept. He said, this guy has no clue what he's been through, what the changes he has to make with his this thing. Because at that point my kidneys and liver and heart, everything had stopped. Everything was gone, right? So so it was very early in this thing, So he knew that even if the heart is going to be working, it's going to take some while. It's going to take a while for medication. It is going to come back again. It's going to take a minute. The kidneys are also going to take a while to come back. Liver, all the the organs are going to take a while to come back. So when we go home, it was a little bit this thing. Now the second day, when the doctors came, I noticed that they were all like looking at the monitors and talking back and forth. But honestly, I didn't even know I had open heart surgery. I didn't know my kidneys and my organs had shut down. A lot of things I didn't know. But one thing I knew was that God said he was going to make me whole. And I told Dr. Jampson that, I'm going to be out of here within a week, max, a week and a half. Right? And he was saying that this guy has no clue what's going on with him. So he, so he just went home, came back, Now the next day when the doctors came, my heart, that was completely gone. Now, mind you, when I was there, I had a balloon pump. That was what was, working on making the heart work. I had a balloon pump. Then I had an external pacemaker. So should the computers mess up, at least the pacemaker is going to jump in, and the heart has to always be pumping, right? And then, and stuff like that. So when they came, they kept looking, they kept doing a few tests and stuff like that, and you could tell they were confused. So later they told me that your heart is working very well, but they're still going to leave the balloon pump because it could only help the heart. It wouldn't this thing, But come to find out, my kidneys, my liver, my heart, everything was working very well on the second day. Everything was up and running, And another thing too that happened, I used to wear glasses. Okay, I used to wear glasses, and remember I said that the nurse said, this guy has glaucoma or whatever it is on the eye. Because I used to have this ring on my eye. I think I had to do surgery to take it off or whatever. When I came back, everything was gone. Wow. I could see clearly. I don't need my glasses. I don't wear glasses anymore. 20/20 vision. And because I kept telling Priscilla, I said, man, your skin looks so beautiful. So she kept saying, like, before it was bad, wasn't bad.
Now you can see very clearly, Julian.
I could see so clear. And, and I think because I was in a lot of darkness, my eyes were closed. So once I opened it, I could see I could see so clearly, I could see like everything, so I was asking, has she put in, because she doesn't put on makeup and stuff. So I was wondering maybe has she put makeup on or like, and she says no. And I said, I could see so clearly, So I asked Dr. Jampson to do the same thing. I said, did they do surgery on my eye? And Dr. Jampson said, no, it was just an open heart. I said, really? I said, okay. I said, I can see very clearly. He said, oh, okay, my kidneys, everything was working well. And one thing too that shocked the what's it called? The doctors, which I didn't understand why. But when I came out, I was in no pain. Okay, I was in absolutely zero pain. till today that we are speaking, the only pain medication I've taken is Tylenol. No pain. You know, so I was asking Dr. Johnson about why are they making such a big deal? Because they had all these pain morphine, oxycodone, a whole bunch of pain medications ready to inject. You know, and I said, what's going on? He said, Julian, you had an open heart surgery. Do you know what it entails? So I said, what? Say, look, they take a saw and they cut you open, break your bones and open your chest, go in, fix, and then put you back up again. So that's when Priscilla actually took showed me a camera of my chest. So then I said, oh, really? You know, I said, oh, so he says, that's why there's not seeing a patient not be in pain. It's impossible. I mean, can you imagine cutting your chest open and you're not in pain?
Wow.
And I've no pain.
So Julian, we're just seeing, I'm just overwhelmed. We're just seeing the hand of God all over this. I mean, no doctor, no man can take the glory. God takes all the glory. The surgery, I mean, the length of time it takes, your recovery, the blood pressure, your eyes, your kidneys, your liver, you know, all the major organs, all working at 100%.
The same day.
And your recovery, they were saying you'll be in hospital for, was it 30 days? And how long were you there?
They gave me about 30 days, you know, because, you know, they're looking at it this way, you know, they've got to be giving medication to help the kidney back, you know, medications for your heart. And, you know, so even if it's going to, because they said it will take a couple of weeks for them to make a decision if they're going to, you have to be on dialysis, or if you have to have a pacemaker, or if you have to, you know, it's going to take a while for them to make those decisions. So they gave me up to about 30 days.
Right.
But I told Dr. Johnson, I'm going to be out of here in no time, because I know what I saw and I know what God told me. So I was just, I knew that it was impossible. There's no way I'm going to be in the hospital for that long.
Right.
I just knew that, you know, so I knew I was going to be out of here.
So you just took God at his word, irrespective of the circumstances. You know, once God has spoken, he will bring it to pass. So that is such an act of faith. Is that right, Julian?
You know, the funny thing, it never even, like what we're having right now, it didn't even crossed my mind that, like, anything they told me, oh, you'll be here for 30 days, you had an open heart surgery, you had this, it actually didn't mean anything to me. You know, come to think about it, I never thought of that. Everything I was thinking about was how I was going to spread the testimony.
Wow.
That's those were the things that I'll talk about, or how the kids doing. I never thought of because I knew I'll be fine.
Because God has said it.
You just took
God for his word. Like right now, when I think about it, not even once did I have a negative thought that something could go wrong. Not even once, you know. Another thing I came to find out is, you know, my blood pressure was very bad. My blood pressure was very, very, very bad. You know, even with medication, I was still off. You know, very, very, very bad. I came back. So today, I don't take any blood pressure medication.
Wow. Amazing. So Julian, tell us a bit. Tell us about, because I've spoken to you. You've told us about your ICU, the room number you were in, the room number you got to, and also what are the doctors and nurses saying? Are people seeing you, seeing the miracle? Is anyone wondering who you are? Is anyone giving their lives to Christ? Can you just, you know, quickly walk us through that as we're coming quickly to an end?
So when I was in ICU, I was in room number 24. Now, on the 5th day, the surgeon came, did his rounds, and said, you know what? He told the nurses, you guys take all these machines off this guy. This guy is really not an ICU patient anymore, right? Because the doctor, you could tell he was getting confused himself. You know, he kept, you know, but every time he came, he would just come and stare at me. He actually did ask me once. Actually, it wasn't the surgeon, it was another doctor that came and said, "Who are you?" And I said to him, oh, I'm a Ghanaian. He goes, no, that's not what I'm talking. He says, are you a spiritual guy? So I said to him, I said, it depends what you mean by spiritual. You know, because in my mind, I know some people spiritual might mean whatever. You know, so I wanted to make sure it was very clear before I answered that question. I said, you know, I said, now if spiritual, when you say spiritual, if you mean a God fearing person or a miracle working God, you know, if you're talking about, you know, a miracle working God, then yes, I'm spiritual. But anything else, I'm not. You know, so that's when she just looked at me and then just walked away, because you could tell that nothing made sense.
Right.
You know, and then Priscilla later told me that, oh, you know, because one lady came and said, oh, you came to see the miracle patient, you know, and she goes, I said, oh, what did I ask? She said, oh, that's your nickname in this place. Everybody calls you the miracle patient.
Oh,
you know,
God.
I said, oh, wow. So anyway, so on the 5th day, the doctor said, the surgeon says, you know what, this guy is no more an ICU patient, so you can downgrade him to the general area. So they came back and said to me that there are no rooms available, so they're going to have to keep me in the ICU unit for, you know, until a room becomes available. But I'm not going to be an ICU patient, so I'm not going to be seeing all the nurses with me, like, you know. So I said, okay, no, not a problem at all. So the next day they said, oh, there's a room available. Okay. Now, guess what room is available? Room number 7. Right.
Amen.
So I didn't think too much about it. So they moved me up to room number 7, you know. So it was there that, you know, I was talking and something came up and said, what does 7 mean in the Bible? That's when I realized 7 means completion in the Bible. You know, so God was saying to me that from 24, I go to 7. God was saying to me that I'm with you 24/7, and what I promised I was going to do, I'm done.
Amen. Amen.
You know, what I promised I was going to do, I'm done. You know, so, you know, and I went there. Now, the good thing is, when the first day I got to ICU, I didn't do, the general air room number 7, I didn't do much. The second day, we started doing walking. Okay, because now I have to learn how to walk and all the stuff, right? But, you know, to me, everything that they said, I didn't really. So the first day, you know, so I'm walking, you know, holding these machines, and then what's it called? They have a chair behind me, right, as I walk. So in case I get tired, I could sit down, right? So they have the thing. Then the 3rd day, I don't need that anymore. The nurse is pushing the walker, and then I'm walking. So in case I get tired, then the 4th day, we're both walking without anything, okay? And then the 4th day, the 3rd day we were walking without anything. The 4th day, now they're walking up and down the stairs, right? And that's when they say, you know what, you're fine. You're not really an ICU patient. You can go home. So I was out of the hospital in 10 days.
Amazing.
And I was strong to the point where, you know, normally I leave the hospital, you have to go in a wheelchair. I could actually walk out of the hospital, you know. But when they realized I was walking out, they said, no, you know, because of liability issues, so you have to sit in the in the wheelchair.
Yes.
You know, and Priscilla. Now, prior to this, they told Priscilla to order certain things because, you know, they don't think I'll be able to walk up and down the stairs. So, you know, she'll have to, like, maybe do a little area on this floor, you know, so that I could sleep, so I don't have to be going, you know, up and down the the stairs. You know. So Priscilla ordered a whole bunch of things from Amazon. Can you believe not even one item came? I was at home.
Wow.
And even when the items came, right, she said most of the things, but it was only one thing, this recliner that she left in the living room that I sit on.
Julian, tell us about the you said the tubes, when 2 were taken out and 1 healed into a cross.
Yeah. So they had 2 tubes. Okay. Remember I mentioned the external pacemaker?
Yes.
They had, that was on the left hand side, they had the external pacemaker. Then they had another tube that what's it called? That would drain fluids. So once the surgeon said, okay, no more an ice tube, take everything out. They pulled all the tubes out. So they had a band-aid on it. Obviously it's a sore at that point. Now when the sores healed, the one on the left healed into a normal scar, like just a normal sore, but the one on the right healed into a cross. So I have a cross on my stomach.
So God has
It's handiwork.
Yeah.
God's
Yes.
handiwork.
He made me know that he's been in.
That's
He's
right.
been there throughout.
That's
He's
right.
been there throughout. I remember when the next day when I got second day when I got home, so Dr. Johnson, the family came to visit. When he came, he told Priscilla, they're going to come up, because to him, he knew there's no way I could be going up and down the stairs. So, somebody who's just had this surgery, he knew it's going to take a while, maybe some 30 days or something. So he was going to come upstairs to come and see me. And then Priscilla said to him, "Oh, don't worry, I'll come down." And they said, "Oh, he didn't believe that that's possible, But for some reason, I had them downstairs, so I was walking, to come. But I think I was texting somebody on the phone. So I was walking down the stairs, texting, sending a text or a WhatsApp or something. This man saw me and said, "What?" So he just came down and we were just dancing. This is somebody who had just come out of hospital,
right?
And I was in the living room, we were dancing and glorifying God and just dancing in the living room. Priscilla recorded all that, all those moments. Actually, when I was even in ICU, when they took all the tubes out, she recorded me well. I was dancing. I said, "Well, I didn't see the boy, so I wanted to do something for them to know that Daddy is fine." So, although actually I had a few tubes on me, and I was still dancing and grooving and stuff. And
his moves hadn't changed. That one was, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. What a joy. What a joy to listen to this wonderful testimony. That brings so much glory to God. He is a living God and he is real. And we know that all our listeners and viewers have really been blessed today, and Julian was saying, he's just telling it as it is. And that's what God expects us to do. Of course, there will be skeptics. Of course, there will be doubters. But you just have to just speak what you know. That's what Jesus said. He said, we speak what we know and we testify what we have seen. And this is really God's doing and it's marvelous in our eyes. And
there's there was a few things that God said, which is very personal. So I normally don't talk about it.
Right.
But there was one thing that he said to me was that, the devil is going to come at me in a few different ways. But one of the things he said was that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to diminish or to downgrade my testimony. I don't know if that's the right word to use. So by saying, "Son, you know what you saw, so don't let anybody, make you feel that it's not true. You know what you saw, so just go ahead. The devil's going to come in so many different ways. So don't let that affect. Excuse me. Don't let that bother you at all."
Praise God.
Actually, so when I get this type of skepticism, I actually get excited because it confirms what God.
Yes.
So it doesn't worry me at all.
Julian, as we are coming to the end and we're rounding up, what you just said there, it just reminds me of Paul the apostle, who went on to do such great works in the kingdom. And, you know, he stood before King Agrippa and he shared his story, and he talked about the encounter he had with the Lord. And during that encounter, Jesus revealed himself to him, and Jesus said, I've made you a minister and a witness, both of the things which you have seen and of the things which I'll yet reveal to you. And I'm sending you to, you know, to people to open their eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, and that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance with the Lord. And Paul said to King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision, and I've declared it, you know, to those in Damascus, to those in Jerusalem, and throughout Judea, and to all people, that everyone should repent and turn to God and do things befitting of repentance. And that is exactly, Julian, what you're doing. You have not been disobedient to the heavenly vision and the encounter you've had. And today, you and your wife, you know, Priscilla, this testimony is not complete without you. You know, you both have shown so much faith, and your story is going all over the world, because this is one for everyone to hear. And this is a testimony that will certainly draw people closer to God, and those who do not know the Lord will certainly make them to know the Lord. We can just see God all over this. And we are just so grateful for your transparency. You know, you've not hidden anything, including, you know, the fact that even at the start of this whole this whole thing, you were even not on talking terms. You know, you've been transparent and you've shared that, and that goes a long way to even let us know the grace of God. And we can also see, you know, your tenacity, your determination, your persistence, refusing to take no for an answer, even when the situation looks so dire. You've shown so much bravery. You've cooperated with God in the midst of a very difficult trial, standing even when men were crumbling, you know, fighting for your family, fighting for your boys, and fighting for your husband. So we honestly salute you. And you're just showing that, you know, this can be done by everyone, because, you know, you just showed your simplicity, your simple prayer. God, show me mercy. God, intervene. You reminded God of his promise to you. So we see you in, you know, in Hebrews 11, where the Bible talks of people who showed faith, because it talks about women who received their dead back to life again. And that's what you have done. And we also see Julian taking God at his word. You know, once God said it, that settled it for him. So it's also giving us an example, you know, a lesson to take home with us tonight, that when God speaks, we have to take him at his word. You know, he's magnified his word above his name. You know, what he says he will do, he can do. And that's what even Abraham experienced. He said he knew that God had the ability to do, even though, you know, his body was dead, and God had said, I'll make you a father of many nations. That's exactly what the Lord did for him. So how powerful this is. Thank you so much. But before we go, we just want you to also share for a minute or two, how life has been since you've had this experience. Is God still ministering to you? How is your prayer life? Priscilla, how is marriage? Has it changed? Is it like living with Lazarus back from the dead? You know, how are things? And now, honestly, whether you like it or not, you have a ministry and you are really fulfilling your purpose. So that's something else, you know, for us to all know, that we all have a purpose, we all have a calling, and may God help us to fulfill it all. But let's also not forget the different aspects of this testimony. One thing that Julian said is that God loves the poor. The poor is very close to God's heart. And so let's learn to be a blessing. It's not all about ourselves. It's not all about getting. He said when he left his body, nothing else mattered. You know, he forgot his bank account. He forgot his house. He forgot everything that he had. You know, what mattered in eternity was souls. So, and God is interested also in the poor. So whatever we have, let's learn to share. Let's be a blessing. So before we go, Julian, very quickly, can you let us know how life is after? How coming back? Is God still speaking to you? And and then we'll round up. We could go on and on. This is so interesting, but if you could just say that in just a few minutes, and then we'll go.
Right. So life, everything has been very good. Yes, God, I speak to God every day. Okay, I normally speak with Him between 2 and 4. And I don't want to get into all the details, because in the beginning it was a little bit something that I wasn't used to, but eventually, I started, because, I was thinking God, on earth, He's just going to be yelling and, talking to you in a certain way. But, eventually I realized that, but anyway, I speak to Him every day, to me, married life has been great, but I also have to understand that, with me it's easy because I've gone through a certain cleansing, right? But on Priscilla's end, it's not, she didn't go through what I went through. So it's a working process for her, so that, I got to be mindful of that, there's certain things that I'll do, that she might, but with her, she might not be able to do that immediately because, but I've come to understand that it's going to take some time.
Right.
So, things are not going to change overnight. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, everything just went just like that. So, and that's why I didn't even think of, I even forgot about the fight. It wasn't part of it. I didn't even think of it.
Right.
Everything was like, wow, like, I got to tell you this. I was excited, and stuff like that. So I've gone through. So with me, everything is great, but with Priscilla, it's a working process.
Right. So, okay.
So
I don't know if
I
guess,
guess
everything, or am I missing something?
No, I guess there's no more silent treatment, no more fighting.
well, even if she tries it, I don't even accept it.
Fantastic. Great.
Oh,
so we will just like to say thank you so much, Priscilla and Julian, for such a wonderful story, such a it's evangelical tool to take to the people out there, for people to know that God is real. And as it goes on, people are going to listen to it over and over, and we are going to share with friends who are not able to listen to it. This is so important for people, because there are people who go to church, but do they know God is real?
Right.
And I'm sure you were going to church before this happened, but this has brought you closer to God.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, before I used to go to church all the time, but there were a lot of things, doubts, and a lot of things that were going through my mind. Like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I'm not somebody who knows the Bible inside out. If I said I did, that's a lie. As a matter of fact, I've now bought a whole bunch of different things to help me, to learn about the Bible. So I'm still growing, and I don't think I'm doing a very good job in learning it well, but I'm trying my best.
Julian, you actually give everyone hope, and you help us to understand God's love and God's grace, because this is grace all over you. It's not that God is waiting for us to be perfect. You have just shown that God loves the regular guy. All we just have to do is just turn our hearts to Him, and He meets us, and He loves us so much. It's a message of love, because it's so good to know that God loves us, because that gives us so much confidence and security. The enemy does not want us to know God loves us, but God really loves us, and it's amazing. The Bible says nothing can separate us from His love.
Yeah, the love is one of those things that I can't even forget. And because that was actually the first thing. My first it was just love. It was just too much. I mean, it's amazing.
Wow.
you know.
Wow, wow,
So-
wow. You could go on and on. I'll hand over to my co-host here, because I am just so mesmerized. God is just too much, and we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. And we pray that God will continue to strengthen you, and he will continue to open doors, because as I said, many people need to hear this, and he'll do that because he's the one who's giving you the testimony. So we know God will continue to take you from place to place, from nation to nation. And we thank God that he's saying that he has many other people who are also sharing the good news of his salvation, the good news that Jesus came and died for us, that anyone who believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Mr. and Mrs. Sotomi, we love you, and we really thank God for your life and for this beautiful testimony. To God alone be the glory. Patsy, take over and close us.
So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for such a miracle story. Thank you for amazingly, the way you shared it. We could have gone on all night,
Yes.
but we are grateful. And all we will say is thank you on behalf of WhatsApp Radio. Sorry again for the technical issue. The enemy tried, but we got there at the end.
Amen.
So thank you once again. And hopefully we will meet you some other time sharing it again. So have a very
Right.
blessed day, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
all our listeners and viewers. And God bless.
So bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.